All right, we're beginning part 3 of the dragon exercise, and as you will see that I am going to go ahead and working on this wing. I'm deleting the grassy edges from around it. You can kind of see that on the screen here. It doesn't really take too long if you use the eraser and you zoom in. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect because you're going to make some modifications to the wing anyway, but you're going to try to keep as much of the wing intact as possible for this exercise. And you'll see that I'm trying to get as much of the original bat wing color as I can without actually getting rid of the wing itself. This is going to take kind of a delicate touch. You can kind of see me working here around, trying to keep some of the integrity of the wing, like some of the bony structure, and working down along here. Okay, so continuing to do this, and and like I said, you could do this with paths. You could do this with the wand tool. The wand tool doesn't work so well when the background isn't much of a solid color. And you saw how that was trying to work for me yesterday. It wasn't working very well at all. And but now that I've got a majority of this bat wing removed, or at least the background around the bat wing, it'll be really easy for me to then incorporate and modify this particular structure for the dragon. And we're just going to go ahead and do this. There's some things like this lower part of the wing you could modify if you wanted. For instance, I can make the scale smaller on my so that I can get more fine erasing. Try to get some of this, try to get it almost like a fingery look here. Okay, and if I can go even smaller, get kind of up right around in here. You can obviously get way more exact than that. All right, so there it is. There's the wing, and as we zoom out, okay, check zoom out here, we'll be able to see that a majority of the wing is now available. It doesn't actually look too bad. And there it is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dock this on this side and kind of center this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more so I can see more of the full scope of the wing here. And now I can go ahead and see, there's my dragon or my iguana with the elongated nose. There's my background. The bat is no longer there, and then I can remove the background and get a good idea of how this is supposed to look. Zoom out one more time. Okay, and there we go. Now we can see all of it. All right, so we go to the example here, and the next thing they wanted you to do is they wanted you to position the wing. You'll notice that the wing is facing the other direction in the tutorial. And you'll notice that they kind of remove some of the wing so that it blends in with the surface of the dragon, which is fine. So it's just going to require a little bit of finagling, so to speak. So the first thing we got to do when trying to position this wing is we got to get it with the dragon. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flip the wing, I'm going to flip it horizontally, and then I'm going to position it over top of the dragon. So I'm going to select the wing, it's selected, and I'm going to go up to the layer drop-down box, and I'm going to go to transform, and I'm going to flip it horizontally, and now it's facing the other direction. All right, the next thing I want to do, and I may actually even want to zoom in for this a little bit, okay, is I'm going to go ahead and position it over top of the iguana. So I've got my iguana there, and he's a good size. Okay, I might have to shrink the wing down a little bit, but we're going to try to move the wing first. So I'm going to go ahead and move the wing, and I'm already noticing that the image might actually be too short. As I move the wing up, it's actually going off the image a little bit. So I'm going to shrink it a little bit to see before I decide whether or not I actually have to change my canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and select my scale tool, click on here, okay, and I'm going to just go ahead and grab this arm, and I'm going to scale it down a little bit. Now, you can obviously distort when scaling. I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to cancel. I'm going to hit scale again. And this time, I'm going to go ahead and lock the width and the height, the aspect ratio, so it stays the same. And now I'm going to scale it some more. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it down like that. And I actually kind of like the smaller looking wing like that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit scale. And there it is. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and position the wing so it's kind of right behind the neck, and I'm going to want to rotate the wing a little bit. Obviously, depending on the lizard you use and whatnot, you can do this a variety of different ways. But I'm going to go ahead and rotate it sort of like that. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make that, solidify that, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of move it into place. Right about there, I think, is where I'm going to want it. I'm going to go ahead and just bring up the picture here, just kind of see. They have this part of the wing kind of level with the back of the dragon, okay, and kind of these down here along the leg. I kind of like it tilted a little bit more. I could obviously rotate it, but because the head goes up a little bit more, I think I'm going to keep mine just the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And now I'm going to try to blend it in. One of the things you might want to do is activate the background so there's a greater contrast for your eyes. And then the second thing you might want to do is you might want to actually dim the bat wing a little bit so you can kind of see where the back of the lizard is so you don't erase too much. Okay, so I've done that. I can kind of see the outline of the back of the lizard, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blend this a little bit. I'm going to select my eraser tool, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here a little bit. Okay, now I've got my eraser tool. I'm going to go ahead and scale it up to somewhere around probably 0.75. I'm going to go ahead and type that in. Okay, and I want it to be a fuzzy circle. So probably something about fuzzy 17 would be good. Now I've got a, so I'm going to go ahead and start to erase part of the wing here. Okay, I'm going to definitely erase all of this down here. And because this lower edge here, I'm going to make it actually a sharp erase. I'm not going to make it fuzzy. And the reason I want to do that is I want it to be kind of fuzzy right around where it looks like it's attached to the dragon. But starting right about here, it's no longer attached to the dragon. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just shape this a little bit. Okay, something like that. Okay, and now if I go ahead and I go back to my layers, okay, and I actually take and I make the opacity 100%, I can kind of see that it looks like it's protruding from the back of his neck. You may not want it to be that exact location. You might want to move the wing over a little bit. That's fine. If I were to go ahead and move this wing over a little bit, I can also see that there are some pieces that I probably need to trim up. So I'm going to go ahead and move it maybe over a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and now remove the iguana, grab my eraser tool, make it large, and I'm just going to get some of these pieces I may have missed. Clean up some of these edges a little bit. Okay, and now if I bring the iguana back in, it actually looks like it fits pretty well. Okay, next part of the lizard here. Okay, and you see it's kind of, they do a little bit of blending here too. Okay, they're trying to erase some of the wing, make it look like it fits. Okay, is one of the things they do is they want to change the wing's hue by going to colorize. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and colorize the wing. So I'm going to bring up my layers dialog box. Make sure that the wing is selected. I'm going to go to colors, okay, and colorize. And now they give me some examples here. I want my hue to be 114. Okay, they want 44 for the saturation and 3 for the lightness. Okay, and I can click OK, and it creates that dark looking wing. Now, a couple things. First of all, is I don't necessarily like that color in comparison to the lizard. And if that is the case, which it very well may be, you can actually go in and adjust it. Like, for instance, for whatever reason, so if I want to go ahead and change the hue or the saturation, or I want to undo what I did originally, and I can go to colors, colorize. I can actually change it a little bit. So I want it to be more of that green color that is the lizard. You can play around with these a little bit. You're trying to match more of the lizard's naturally green color. And this might take a little while. Try to actually get it real close to looking like, the whole point of this assignment is to make something that looks like it blends well. And because we're using a different lizard, you might want to go ahead and just play around with it for a little while. So I'm going to pause this until I get something that I really like, and then I will begin the video once again. All right, we're back at it. Now I've played with the wing. I've got it to a green color that I think looks okay. Obviously, when we're done here, we're going to go ahead and put some kind of maybe like overlay or colorization to it. So, you know, but ultimately, what you don't have to follow the instructions step by step. Color it so that you like it, but it should be some kind of greenish hue, kind of what I've got here. And it doesn't seem to blend all that great, but we'll work on it. So the next part of the steps, it talks about how you should use a combination of small white or black brushes on the layer mask to attach the wing to the body even more so. What they're meaning by that is that you are trying to kind of touch up the edges here a little bit. Maybe use brushes so that you can make it look like more of a natural connection of the wing and the body. So I'm going to zoom in here again. Okay, and I'm going to bring up my brushes dialog box here. And they want you to use like a layer mask. Okay, but I'm going to use just, let's see here. I don't want to get a square one. I want to get like a small circle. Okay, and layer mask. Add a layer mask, and it's going to be like, it's going to be one of these. Hang on one second. Okay, and Control Z. What you do with a layer mask, I'm going to go ahead and do that, is it allows you to kind of only reveal what you want to reveal. And I kind of show you what I mean by that. If you apply the layer mask, and let's make it black, let's make it a full transparency, and we add it. Then if you use the brushes, okay, and you kind of, let's make the scale very large, you can actually reveal only parts of the wing at a time. Okay, so you may want to only reveal those parts of the wing that actually look like they blend well. Kind of like that. And now I can reveal all of these parts of the wing. Okay, and I can scroll up here a little bit and reveal this part of the wing. This is kind of a cool effect if you were to try to make something like disappear in a cloud or something like that. You could also use the same sort of mask layer effect. But what you'll notice is that it allows me to really make the wing look like it blends well in with the body of the dragon. All right, so I've done that, okay, and now that I've got that in place, happy with that, it wants you to actually duplicate the wing and place it behind all the other layers, okay, except the castle, so that it looks like there are two wings. Now we might have to make a slight rotation so that it's visible, which is fine. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up, okay, these my boxes here. I'm going to duplicate this layer here, this pasted layer, which is the wing. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it so that I have two of them. And on the second one, I'm going to go ahead and, or maybe even this top, I want the second one to be behind the first one. So we got to figure out which one is behind. Go ahead. And in order to do that, we're going to have to kind of play around with it a little bit. So I'm going to rotate one of these. Okay, and it's actually not quite what I'm looking for. Actually want to rotate the layer. I'm going to rotate. And it's not working very well. Let's try it. Okay, let's do this. Let's go ahead and let's remove everything. I'm going to go ahead and go back to before I duplicated that layer. Okay, there it is. And what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go ahead and disable the layer mask for this one, duplicate it, okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and rotate the one layer here. So I want to rotate this layer here. And it's still not working very well. I'm going to actually go ahead and remove the layer mask. I can here from this one, and now I'm going to rotate this layer. The problem is that when I'm going to rotate it, it's not rotating just the wing. Here we go. I'll rotate just that wing. I'll rotate it like that. And now I'm going to move that in the layers so that it's behind the other one. Kind of like that. I also want to make sure that it's behind the iguana. So I'm going to move it down again like that. I can go ahead now and activate the layer mask for the first wing so that I have that blending effect that I had before. And if I zoom out, I now have one wing behind the other, slightly rotated. Okay, and if I wanted to, I could even move that a little bit so that it looks more like he's getting ready to fly, like so. Okay, the one wing closest to us, or the one wing at the very top of the list here, the one with the layer mask, will have a layer mask so it looks like it blends with the body. The other one, it doesn't matter because you don't have to see the blending with the body. You just want it there, the top part, to give it that layered look, that depth look. Okay, so there's that. And now if we add the castle back in there and the background, okay, we're starting to get something that looks a little bit more like a dragon. I have this layer mask here, which is providing a little bit of a shadow, but that's okay. Maybe it'll give it like a foggy look. Okay, so the next thing that they're going to want to do, all right, is it says you want to get rid of some of the bones showing on the second wing, okay? And the reason for that is that the bones of a wing only show on the underside. So because this is actually the top of the wing that we're seeing here, we want to go ahead and try to get rid of these bones in the wing here so that it doesn't look artificial. So we're going to use the clone tool. Okay, and in order to use the clone tool, I'm going to scale it up a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to try to use the clone tool. I want to make sure I'm using it on the right layer. I'm going to use it on the pasted layer here. I'm going to use the clone tool, and maybe I even have to scale it up a little bit more so that it doesn't seem to be working. Let's try. Okay, the pasted layer is activated. I've got the. Maybe I'm going to use the clone tool. Here it is. I'm going to take the scale, make it about 1. You have to hold control when you select an area you want to clone, and then you can apply that to parts of the wing. Okay, and now I'm going to hit control again. You want to get as close to the area of the wing that you're changing as possible. Okay, I'm going to hit clone again. You want to be very careful when doing this. Hold control when you're selecting the region that you want to clone. And you want to change the area which you're cloning several different times. And it looks something like that. Now the bones aren't showing, and it definitely looks like the top of a wing versus the bottom of a wing. I am going to do a little bit on the arm here, okay, just so that it looks a little less bony. And there we go. It looks really good now. So now, you've done the clone tool there, and now it's where we're going to try to actually start to play around with the castle a little bit, try to make it look like the dragon is behind the castle and part of his leg is showing. Okay, in order to do that, if you read the instructions, it says, now for an important step. Get out the lasso tool and copy a big portion of the top of the castle where the dragon is. Paste it over the dragon. Name this new layer Top Castle. Use the magic wand tool to select the sky that is still covering the dragon. Go to Select and hit Feather. Feather selection by 2 pixels. Delete. Now, use the eraser tool to erase some of the parts of the castle that are covering the dragon to create a natural effect. Essentially, before I start doing this, what it wants it to do is it wants it to look like that the limbs of the dragon are clutching the castle. Right now, you can kind of see it better in this particular picture. Right now, if I were to go ahead and activate my castle layer, it literally looks like he's just floating in front of the castle. And that's not what we want. We want to give this effect that the dragon is actually clutching the castle, grabbing onto it and holding it tight. Okay, and so in order to do that, we need to, I'm going to need to go ahead and copy the top of the castle and move it in such a way that I can layer the top of the castle between the dragon and then the background of the castle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just make my green iguana go away. I'm going to make the wings go away for a minute. And they say use the lasso tool. So here's the lasso tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy a large portion of the castle here. You don't have to be very descriptive. I'm going to hit Control C to copy. I'm going to hit Control V, and now it becomes a floating selection. I'm going to make that a new layer. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use my wand tool now. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the rest of the castle. Go ahead and use my wand tool to delete the white area above it. Now you won't really see that until you remove the background and you realize you have this really nice outline of the castle. Okay, go to Select None. And now if you activate the bottom of the castle, it doesn't look any different. Okay, and we're gonna use that to our advantage. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna activate the iguana. Now, you'll notice that if my pasted layer here, I'm gonna just name as the top of the castle. And with the top of the castle, if I were to hide it, I would see the iguana. If not, okay. What I want to do is I want to make the top of the castle kind of opaque. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to erase part of the top of the castle, okay, for certain limbs that we want to pop out. Okay, now those limbs would probably be this back limb here and this long claw, and then this front limb here and this front claw, and then probably erase these fingers sticking out here, but leave this part of the castle intact. To do this, to erase part of the castle, you would select the eraser, and you want it to be a hard edge. Okay, I'm probably going to apply a fade out here. But I want it to be a hard-edged brush, so probably something like this, and I'm going to need to zoom in. So it's going to be a very delicate process. Okay, so now I'm going to erase part of the top of the castle. These parts of the limb. Okay, so that limb is going to pop out. I'm going to need to make the scale of my brush a lot smaller here, okay, to accommodate some of this claw. Now, if you hold it down, you're going to notice that there's a fade out that I applied, and that's so that I don't make too many damaging mistakes. The fade out actually takes away the effectiveness of the brush over a period of time. If you want the brush to be more effective, you're going to have to re-click. And part of that is that if I get too far and I realize that I erased something, it might not be too damaged, okay, and I can always undo. But the fade out only makes the brush effective for a short period of time. And this is kind of a built-in fail-safe so that you don't make too many damaging mistakes when editing things like this. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and scoot on over here to this back leg. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and make this claw. I'm going to make it so it's visible. Okay, remember, I'm just erasing part of the castle. Try to make these limbs more visible. We can go ahead and make some touch-ups here in a minute, but we want to get, especially around the edges here. Okay, and so now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and increase the opacity of the castle. And we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit. What we see here is that we've gone ahead and kind of layered the arm over top of the castle wall. I'm going to go ahead and erase this front claw of the iguana because it just looks stupid. Okay, and I'm also going to erase part of this back claw. And maybe even part, no, not going to do that because I've already erased part of that castle. Okay. All right, so now we've got this layer here, and if we activate the castle layer, we activate the wings, okay, and we zoom out on the big picture, we can see it doesn't look too bad, but it still looks a little awkward, but it doesn't look as awkward as it did. Okay, and we've definitely got the top of the castle here. We've got the layering of the body. We've got the layering of the wings. We've got the extending of the snout. and it looks like he's clutching the castle. Okay, and now ultimately you could play around with some of the other features of this experiment. You could go ahead and change the background coloring. You could put a color filter layer over top of it. If we zoom way out here, as I'm about to do, it kind of looks cool. All right, I'm gonna just apply one final color filter. You can go ahead and ignore the rest of this particular exercise. I'm gonna apply just like I'm gonna just find something that looks sweet. So you can do like a colors. You could go to levels or color balance or bright and contrast. Let's just go to like levels. And you can change some things here. You can make the dragon look deeper and meaner. Okay, like that. And if I hit OK, then I can do the same thing to the wings. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that to the wing. I'm going to go to levels, and I'm going to just make the wings a little deeper. Okay, and kind of like that. All right. You could also apply like a sepia tone over the top. You can find a filter and do something like that. You can do artistic or a render. Artistic might be if you wanted to make it look like a cartoon. Okay, you could go ahead and make the whole thing look like a cartoon. So you can do all kinds of different filters to make this look pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this now. If you get this far, you're good. That's fine. And you could always go around and play with it a little bit more. That's fine. If you get this far, that would be good for this assignment. So that concludes this last part of the assignment. Make sure you save it as an XCF and then also as a JPEG. That concludes the tutorial, the 3-part tutorial on the dragon exercise. Thank you.